Your work doesn't speak for itself. Your mouth does, and your staff's little mouths as well. Welcome to Simplified Sparky Marketing. A few experience I've had over the years and stuff that I hope can prevent your electrical business from making the same stuff ups. And this may even be occurring in your electrical business today. To start with, I want to speak about the language that is used with you to your clients and from your staff members to your clients. Because you have to remember that your staff members are flying your flag. So when your back is turned, how are your staff members speaking to your clients? And an example of this was a few years ago. I was back in Ireland. I literally just hired this guy and it was about 3 weeks into his employment. I had to set him off on his own. Now, mind you, I had a horribly run business at the time. I was part of a coaching system, and the thing they fixated on, and they still do, is hire staff, hire staff, hire staff. So it was hire staff, but they didn't give you the foundations. They didn't give you a playbook. They didn't give you the onboarding system, nothing. It was just hire staff and then we'll figure it out. So that's exactly what I did. I hired staff because I had a good inkling about this person, which allegedly was the best way to hire staff. I hired this guy on attitude and he told me he was a good electrician. So anyways, he was on a job. The job was replacing a switchboard enclosure and doing another few bits in the house. So when it came to the switchboard, he did the switchboard, but he spotted that the earth, to be fair to him, wasn't compliant and it wasn't the standard. It was, I think it was like a 4mm or something like that, or maybe it was an old copper wire wrapped around a pipe. So what had happened was he relayed this to the client. He said, look, we're going to have to install a new earth. And the exact words he said to me that he relayed to the client was, we're going to have to install an earth here. I don't know how much it costs because the boss is away, but I'm sure he won't sting you too hard. Now, when I heard that, I shivered because for the client, a sting is something that a bee does. A sting is something that a wasp does. A mosquito, that hurts. And the language that he used there could have been approached a lot differently. It's something that goes under the radar, and what I would suggest to you, whether it's you're thinking of hiring an apprentice, you've currently got staff, I think a meeting is needed. And when they're onboarded, that you relay to them, this is how you should speak to clients. As I said, these are the guys that are flying your flag for your electrical business. And if they use language like that can make the client feel uncomfortable, it's not a good look for your company. It's something like I speak about a lot is there's a few different sections, and I'd call it the 5-star step. You take the initial phone call or the email inquiry, and that very first interaction with the client is going to tick off the first star of the review, and it moves along the stars that you achieve those 5 stars on the job. Now, if you're on the job, you might have got to 3 stars with my system. You might be on the 4th and you're at the finish line, and then you say something like sting you. That could just eradicate your chance of getting a review. It's not until your back is turned that this kind of stuff is going to happen as well. One of my clients, I upgraded their switchboard and meter box a few years ago. She was getting her hot water system upgraded. She reached out to me and said, can you install the circuit? And I'd booked in to do the circuit, and she said, hang on, don't worry about it. The plumber that's installing the hot water system, he's got a mate that's an electrician. He's going to install it. Now, on a side note to this, it was bizarre. When I upgraded the switchboard, the existing hot water system, which was a feed into the roof, which was perfectly fine, it was a 2.5, a 20 amp circuit, it was already on an RCBO. And he actually went and he replaced it with a circuit breaker for some weird, bizarre reason and didn't install an isolator. So while that plumber and electrician were on site, they were yapping, there was techno tunes pumping, and it made the client feel extremely uncomfortable because she's quite a timid client. She's a bit peculiar, but a lovely person. And once the job was done, she called me up and she was like, Alan, I don't trust their work. Can you please come and check out this system? So I did, and I was like, I don't know why the hell he's removed that off of an RCD and onto a circuit breaker. I was like, maybe the element was tripping from the get-go for some weird reason, and he's put it on that. So I did an IR test. I tested everything and everything worked. And I put a new RCBO back into the switchboard, which I had to charge her for because he had whipped the other RCBO. So anyway, I asked her, I goes, what went wrong? Or why did you feel you needed to get me back? And she was like, they were loud, they were obnoxious, they were pumping techno music, and she just didn't feel comfortable with them in her home. It's just these little things that you think and presume common sense is there with your staff. But you really have to sit them down and say, look, this is how we operate. This is how we treat our clients when we go to their home. Because at the end of the day, you're inside in their home, it's their safe space. And if you make them feel uncomfortable or your staff make them feel uncomfortable in their home, it's not going to be a good experience. It's not going to lead to referrals. It's not going to lead to reviews. It's not going to lead to further work. If anything, it's just going to spin a bad reputation, because you can do the best work out there. But if you make that client feel uncomfortable in their home, or you use language, like I said, like stinging, it's not going to be a good experience. Another rule when it comes to customer experience is the presumption that you're always being watched. And I think it's vital, it is paramount, that either on onboarding or you have a toolbox talk tomorrow morning with your staff members and advise them that they are consistently being watched. In garages, around the perimeter of the house, inside in the house, on the Ring doorbell, conversations are picked up, you're seen on the cameras. It should be presumed that even if they think there's not a camera in the house or they can't see any plain sight of a camera, you don't know the client. You don't know that that baby monitor is sitting on the shelf and it's tucked behind something else and it's looking at you. I have fucking seen this firsthand. I was doing a job in Darlinghurst many years ago and there was an alleged baby monitor. It was pointing right into the kitchen that I was renovating with a builder many years ago, and he was about to bag out the client, and I stopped him in his tracks and I brought him outside and I let him know. And he never seen that camera, and that could have been very damaging to their relationship, to getting paid. I even caught a painter pissing on my cameras. I caught him pissing because the camera picked it up, the motion, and he was taking a sneaky piss out the side. Imagine if that was your staff member and I was a shithead and I flagged that with you, how bad that would look with you. But I've noticed it. I did an EV charger install in a garage the other day, and I looked around when the job was almost done, and I have it subconsciously that I most likely am being watched in any case. But sure as shit, when I was packing up, I looked in the corner and I seen there was like a Google Nest camera just rested and plugged in on the shelf, pointing directly at where the charger was being installed. It wasn't like it was pointing at the door to see whoever was coming in. It was as if it was positioned that while I was doing the install, I could be watched doing it, which is weird. We're now in 2026, that things are getting weirder. There's more cameras everywhere. Everything's being watched. Everything's being monitored. There's so many different stories I've heard over the years of a plumber getting caught on a Ring camera, bagging out the client to their workmate before they answer the door, not realizing that they're listening to every single word that they say. I've heard of people speaking about the client badly once they hear a door shut and they presume they're gone out. Next thing they're hearing footprints coming up the hallway. And it is going to be very detrimental to your business. So have that meeting this week, or change your policies, or change your onboarding process, that you do advise them of this, and it's just going to make for a better customer experience on their end. It keeps the guard up with you and your staff, and it's going to be an all-around better experience for your company, which leads to more work, more reviews, more referrals, and I'll catch you next week.